Without hearing the actual song, most people in the southern sections of the United States could read the title of R.E.M's hit track and probably guess with good accuracy what it was about. After all, the phrase finds its roots in the South and conveys the experience of going through an internal battle. It is a crisis in faith, a struggle within the self, and a situation where one finds themselves pushed to their limits. But the subject of this internal battle can often involve another person, someone outside of the individual that's experiencing these feelings. R.E.M. singer Michael Stipe reflected on his lyrics. It is about holding back, reaching forward, and then pulling back again. You don't know if the person I'm reaching out for is aware of me, if they even know I exist. The instrumentation and the catchy hook were unconventional for a lead single at the time. Warner Brothers didn't even want to release it as a single. On seeing the initial version of his music video for the song, director Tarsem Singh reportedly puked. But more on that later. Right now, let's discover the song's inception, detail the creation process, and isolate some multi-tracks from R.E.M's hit single, Losing My Religion. I thought that I heard you sing. Hi there, it's Warren Huart here. Hope you're doing marvellously well. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified when we do a new video. And if you're into production, you can sign up on the email list at producelikeapro.com and get a whole bunch of free goodies. The creation of R.E.M's song was, in some respects, an accident. If you're familiar with Losing My Religion, you'll likely recall the relatable, catchy lyrics. The initial idea for the song, however, actually came from the mandolin. In an effort to better himself at the instrument, guitarist Peter Buck accidentally stumbled across the tune while playing back recordings of his practice sessions. From there, the rest of the song was written rather quickly. The riff and the chorus sections were already captured in the mandolin incident, and the verses fell into the typical mode structure that R.E.M. apparently used a lot, as Buck had put it in an interview with Guitar School magazine. He explained that the band's verses often go from one minor to another, kind of like those drive 8 chords. You can't really say anything bad about E minor, A minor, D, and G. I mean, they're just good chords. Yeah, you can't really disagree. I mean, those 4 chords write themselves and work very, very well indeed. According to Buck, the next 2 instruments to join the mandolin in the song's creation process were the electric bass and drums. At this point, it had a hollow feel to it with absolutely no mid-range. That's when they brought in Peter Holsapple, their touring guitarist, to add acoustic guitar. It was really cool. Peter and I would be in our little booth sweating away, and Bill and Mike would be out there in the other room going at it. It just had a really magical feel. To him, the writing process was quick, a sentiment shared by other bandmates in separate sources. Buck remembers that after the band's first playthrough attempt, Stipe had come up with lyrics within the hour. One thing is clear, multiple members of R.E.M. felt that they had essentially lucked out. To me, Losing My Religion feels like some kind of archetype that was floating around in space that we managed to lasso. If only all songwriting was this easy. I like losing my religion. The 2-month recording period for the song started in September of 1990 at Bearsville Studio A in Woodstock, New York. R.E.M. was going for a live feel, and both the vocal and mandolin tracks strive for this goal by being recorded in one take. So here we have the mandolin and acoustic guitar tracks playing at once. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. For those of you that remember this song well, the mandolin and acoustics are such a dominant part of this song, but they don't take away from the incredible lyric and melody and vocals that Michael Stipe performs. But I don't know, nothing sounded like this when it came out. Everything was kind of heavy and rah and you know, grunge and all this kind of stuff. And then this comes out and it's just this beautiful track. It's a pop song, but it's still cool and indie. It connected so many people together. R.E.M. were already, you know, a massive indie alternative rock band. But here was a song that could get played on the radio, but still had a schnizzle ton of indie cred. And who the heck would think of a mandolin in an indie track? A pop indie track at that. If you listen closely to the mandolin on one of the verses, there's a place where I muffed it a bit. And I thought, well, I can't go back and punch it up because it's supposed to be a live track. That was the whole idea. There's maybe some little timing stuff. There's some where there's hammer-ons, maybe one's a little late or a little earlier. But we've listened down to the track in solo, and if there is a problem in there, it's so minute. And in the great scheme of things, I think it adds to the whole feel. There's a great quote with Paul McCartney saying that they would listen to the basic tracks, and the one that had a mistake in it was always the one they used. It was almost like they knew they were just on the edge. There's a lot of producers like Dan Rothschild's father, Paul Rothschild, who produced The Doors, that would always just push the track as fast as it would go till it was just about to fall apart, find that tempo, and that was the one they would choose. There's definitely a methodology in just being right on the edge. And that comes out. This is an indie pop song, and yet it's got attitude with a mandolin and an acoustic guitar. Created by Mark Bingham, the string sections were captured at Soundscape Studios by a portion of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. Let's check it out. I'm going to throw them in with the guitars, acoustic guitars. I mean, they're pretty perfect because they're legato and they're moving against incredibly percussive instruments like a mandolin and an acoustic guitar. So beautifully complementary. So to discuss the drums for a second, producer Scott Litt remembers mixing Losing My Religion at Paisley Park. I had Bill Berry nudging up to me and saying, I think the drums could be louder. And he was spot on. The strings and the vocals are maybe more memorable, but the drums are really important. He recalls that even other parts of the song were doubled, like the mandolin section. Hence, there was space for the final mix to be drums boosted. Ultimately, that became the last step in creating the final mix. So let's check out the drums and bass. Now, as Peter said, that's how he built the song around drums and bass with mandolin. Incredibly aggressive drums for a mandolin and acoustic. Nobody's holding back. This is not like brushes. It's a rock drum track. You could be like, you could put some frickin' heavy guitars against it. It's a good lesson. Not to be tentative, to be committed. It's really great. All right, throw in the bass as well. It's almost like a Motown bass line because it picks out pieces of the melody and still locks with the drums as well, which is what obviously the great James Jamerson could do every time. It's like vocal melody, link to the drums, and just make it all connect. It's a very, very, very good bass line. It's not just going da 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 dun 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 dun, which would be the most generic indie thing to do. It's a great bass line. Fantastic bass line. Probably completely overlooked by all of us for these years, but now that we can solo things. Loads of movement. Love when it goes low like that. It's beautiful. Absolutely superb. Mike Mills' bass playing was supposed to be a reflection of Fleetwood Mac's bassist John McVie, achieved by trying to imitate the driving effect of the latter's playing style. I think for me that's quite true, but at the same time it's got that Motown thing because it's picking up little pieces of the melody. It's I can feel the Fleetwood Mac kind of ness of it. But at the same time, it's a really, really accomplished line, particularly for what is considered to be indie or alternative at the time. So for me, it might be saving the best till last to listen to the vocal.
It's bigger than you, and you are not me.
It's so American sounding to me, growing up in the UK. You know, it's got bigger, you know, it's got all of this American inflection. And for that, it also sounds really exotic, I think, from a sort of British sensibility.
Oh no, I've said too much. I set it up. That's me in the corner.
That I love the accent. It's just hard to get rid of it. I suppose it's a bit like if you're American, you're listening to like Bowie with the, you know, day kind of Englishness. It sounded so American to me when it first came on. And Radio 1 had no problem. That's a pop radio station in the UK playing the schnizzle out of this. It was on the radio all the time for very good reason.
That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion. Trying to keep up with you.
And that break in the voice, there's the cry in his voice is just unbelievable.
Trying to keep up with you, and I don't know if I can do it.
I mean, do people ever use R.E.M. as a reference for emo? I mean, if you think about it, this is such an emotional vocal, and it's got that very much hit the note. That's me in the corner. Like he hits the note and holds it. It's got a very kind of deliberate way of singing with tons and tons of inflections. All these little breaks in his voice are fantastic.
And I don't know.
Little cry, little grit there.
And I don't know if I can do it. Oh no, I've said too much. I haven't said enough.
Also, it does feel like he's done a whole bunch of takes. There's a little bit of tiredness in his voice, which adds to that kind of emotion as well. I read an article a couple of years ago about how you should always find the top edge of a vocalist's range and never exceed it, but get right up to it. So they're just pushing a little bit hard and you'll get more emotion out of it. And this feels like a really good case in point. It's a beautiful vocal, really super expressive, but at the same time, kind of like evoking early emo, really, which is I've never really thought of until I heard it in solo. Plus, of course, a lyric that just slays, an incredible lyric. When it comes to the vocals, there's an interesting juxtaposition of moods when comparing the writing process to the recording process. You'll remember the sentiment from our earlier discussion about how quickly the song came to the band members and how Stipe had the lyrics within the hour. The vocal recordings, however, were a different ball game altogether, as explained by Stipe. Ultimately, he was surrounded by stress on multiple fronts during that day. An insanely hot and stuffy heatwave in New York during recording. A studio engineer that seemed out of it, and his personal frustration with not singing a take that met the high bar set by his lyrics. The solution, intended or not, taking his shirt off. It is unclear if he achieved the following feat directly after removing that piece of clothing or whether he tried more recordings first, but ultimately his final vocal takes were made in one take, just like the mandolin part. Interestingly enough, Stipe made a comment in the liner notes of the latter compilation album, Part Lies, Part Heart, Part Truth, Part Garbage, 1982 to 2011, that further seems to deviate from the rest of the band's view that they had luckily lassoed a song from the cosmos and captured it into a playable song. He explains that the shirtless recording experience in an almost laid-back manner as opposed to the stressful situation that he had mentioned above in the stuffy studio, saying, "I remember that I sang in one go with my shirt off. I don't think that any of us had an idea it would ever be anything." The two viewpoints of the band members weren't totally different, however. After all, they were all supposedly surprised when the label chose it as the first single for the album, but clarifies that even Warner Brothers wasn't in favour of the song being a single at all. And the acting VP of product management at Warner Brothers, Stephen Baker, recalls long drawn-out discussions about the track's release as a single. Ultimately, R.E.M. and Warner alike were surprised that it sold over 10 million copies after its release in February 1991, about 4 months after it wrapped recording in October the previous year at Bear Studios in New York. In terms of radio placement to promote the single, Warner set its sights on campus, modern rock, and album-orientated rock stations. They moved towards American top 40 stations when the song took off. A director of one of these top 40 stations explained that the song was hard to program. You can't play LL Cool J behind it, but it's a real pop record. You can dance to it. Losing My Religion helped shoot the following Out of Time album to instant success. The song itself reached number 4 in the US, garnering a Grammy in 1992 for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals, and received a number of accolades for its music video released in 1991. The idea for the video came from its director, Tarsem Singh, who had just done En Vogue's Hold On and Suzanne Vega's Tired of Sleeping. Based on Gabriel Garcia Marquez's novel, A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, Singh's music video originally featured Michael Stipe in only sitting poses. The singer's iconic dancing wasn't part of the original idea. While watching the playback for his video in distress, Singh reportedly removed himself and threw up in the bathroom. It was then when Stipe offered to try and dance. Of the 6 Moon Men won at the MTV Video Music Awards, Losing My Religion notably grabbed the position for Video of the Year and Breakthrough Video. Of the many artists to cover the song, you may recognize names like Tori Amos, Lacuna Coil, Trivium, and Swan Dive. This is a really, really powerful song and album for me. I think it was a little bit of a slow build in the UK. You know, we were into 91. It was getting tons and tons of radio play. Everybody went out and bought Out of Time. I don't think there was a friend of mine that did not love that album and did not love this song. And American music for us at the time was still very heavy. You know, it was all sort of big hair metal was still just hanging in. But then we had, like, I suppose what was beginning to become grunge. But everything, whether it would be the big hair metal coming from America or the grunge stuff that was just starting to take off, was all massive guitars. You know, even Nevermind has a massive drum sound. And here we have, I suppose, a big drum sound, especially for mandolins and acoustics, but an intimate pop song. But like I keep saying, with an indie feel. It's just an absolutely phenomenal song. And the fact that the whole song, to me, is almost like a Beatles song in this respect. That is, everything about it is hooky. I mean, what's the chorus? You could argue everything about this is the chorus. That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion. I mean, is that the chorus? Consider this. I mean, everything about it is a hook. It is a beautifully written song. I love the story of it being in a mandolin part, and then it comes in, and then Michael Stipe makes it his own and just comes up with a melody and a lyric which just sells it. And it really does speak to every little, well, you know, kid at that time dating a girl, you know, sitting in the car, listening to it and being all romantic and just feeling vulnerable. I think it is the ultimate song for me of that period of vulnerability, of what it's like to sort of feel afraid, not really sure if the other person is connecting with you. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. R.E.M., you did an amazing job, Michael. Incredible vocals and incredible lyrics. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please leave any comments and questions below. I'd really, really appreciate it. If there's any other songs from this period or any other by any artist whatsoever, let us know. Albums, you name it. Thank you. So long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios. Tschüss, tschüss, goodbye.